Good morning, human. Just I, Kevin the Pug. Daddy's got to zoom in on my face today. Look at me. I'm so handsome. Daddy said I missed yesterday's video. And I was like, I'm really sad about that. But yesterday, I was having a hard day. There was lots of yelling, and there was lots of nastiness, and it made me sad. And so I slept a lot yesterday, and I just kind of snuggled with Daddy, and I wasn't having any videos. There was no videos from Kyla. I didn't want to play and participate. But I feel a lot better this morning. I had a nice walk, and it's pretty cool outside, so Daddy and I are just chilling. Say hi, Daddy. Hi. Yeah. So, anyways, I just wanted to say hi, and I wanted to say I hope you guys enjoy the video of the Super Deck Sunday, and I'm going to try and be part of the videos next week, more for you guys, and Daddy's going to put out a video of me today too, hopefully. Hopefully he remembers to do it. He forgot yesterday. Bad Daddy. Hey, I put out a short. No, I want a full video. Because I'm awesome, and my fans deserve awesome videos of me. Okay, guys, I think that's all I got for you for now. Much love to you all from me, the Kaivaness, and the daddy up there. Hey, yeah, that guy. Okay, much love from us to you. Take care, enjoy the video, and have a nice Sunday. Bye. Good morning, magic players and card collectors of all kinds. Welcome back to the channel. I apologize, I'm just going to adjust this ever so slightly so that we can see that pile of lands a little bit better at the bottom there. I'll tuck this up a little bit too. There we go. My voice may go up and down throughout this video. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm trying to shoot this around Super Angry Man, who is currently outside doing yard work, but keeps popping in and out, so if he comes in, my voice will go down. If he stays out there, my voice will stay up. Yeah, hasn't been the best day today, unfortunately. I'm actually shooting this a day in advance, but this is one of those days where my father decided to remind me that I'm not supposed to be here, that he doesn't want me here, and any time I can move out would be greatly appreciated. Not that I can afford to do so. Because, you know, times being what they are and shite. Cheapest place I can find is worth $1,000, and I don't even make $1,500 in a month, so there's no way in hell that I could actually afford all my bills plus pay rent to them. So stuck where I am and stuck in this proverbial hell, but it is what it is, and I don't want to be a gloom and doom guy. I want to celebrate our next episode of Super Deck Sunday. Last week I did Super Deck Sunday for a old Yu-Gi-Oh deck of mine to get the new viewers to find out exactly why I call myself the Lord Forbidden Decks and kind of explain my situation and just kind of show off some of my old cards that I really love and don't play with anymore. So that was actually a really fun one. If you missed last week's episode, be sure to go back and check it out. I know it's not necessarily the kind of content that a lot of these Magic players that are watching me love, and I love having you here, don't get me wrong. So we've gone back to Magic for today. But, I do love my Yu-Gi-Oh! Still, and I do miss the original game being what it was, and, if I could turn back time, I would, probably, and try and stop those guys from making that super ridiculous deck for the one German tournament that started all the changes to the rules and things. But it is what it is, and like I say, I don't want to be a doom and gloom. I want to celebrate this deck. And this deck is another one of my Spellslinger decks. So I have 3 currently, and I'm working on the Goblin one. I actually was going to work on the Goblin one and the
deck for the Commander Core Creator Challenge this month today, but yeah, depression definitely is a little bit higher now because of the swift kick in the butt from my father this morning, so instead I have just been kind of tidying up my room and waiting for an opportunity to do this with you guys. Unfortunately, you're not going to see Kaiba in this video either because he is just as depressed as I am, and he's laying downstairs on the chair just kind of chilling. But, yeah. So, as I say, this is a Spell Slinger deck. It is my second one of 4 that will ultimately be made. And this one actually has dual commanders. It's been a while since I had a deck that had dual commanders. So, there are 2 options for the commander in this deck. There is the more preferred and probably better option, which is the option I will reveal after we do the lands. But because this deck at its core is very much a awesome Precon that I bought that I've just upgraded as much as I could with different things that I like. So with that said, let's get into it. Start with the lands. Most of these are pretty traditional, but I've got some interesting ones in here too. We got our Frostboss Snarl, of course. It enters untapped as long as you have an island or a mountain in your hand that you can show off. Swift Water Cliffs gives you a life as it comes in. Temple of the False Gods is a good one. As long as you have 5 lands or more in play, you can get an extra bonus mana. Definitely useful in a Spell Slinger deck. Command Tower, the classic. Cascading Bluffs. I don't know why I add the ing. Cascade Bluffs. I like this one. It's very versatile. It can tap for colorless, or if you can pay the red or the blue, you get the mana that you need, which is pretty good. Temple of Epiphany. Scry 1 as it comes into play. Sulphur Falls also enters tapped, but this time if you control the island or the mountain instead of it being in your hand, you get it untapped. Is it Boilerworks? You gotta bounce something to put it into play, but gives you 2 lands instead of 1 when you or 2 mana instead of 1 when you tap it, which is pretty good. Reliquary Tower, definitely a solid one to have in this deck because you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. Ferris Lake. I like the artwork on this one, to be honest. This is one of those lands that I'd probably replace if there was something slightly better, but the red lands that I have, the mountains that I have, I just don't have anything that really fit this deck great. There is one that I was considering putting into here, which is actually the one that goes with the one behind this, which is a mountain, but I just don't do a lot of exiling stuff with this deck. Eventually I want to build a red commander deck that does a lot of like impulse draw and play, but right now it's just not my thing. So, and of course that last card being the Mistrise Village, which is my most expensive card probably in this deck. Although I think the price has come down significantly on this land, but it's still an insanely good land to put into any deck. Since there are mountains in this deck, there's a solid chance that I will be able to play it untapped. And the fact that I can make any of the spells that I want to play uncounterable is pretty damn cool. So, as you can see, there was a lot of Western symbols on those lands, because this is an Outlaws at Thunder Junction deck at its core, and the commander is, of course, therefore, Stella Lee, Wild Hand. Or Wild Card, sorry. Stella Lee is pretty freaking crazy. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you can exile the top card of your library. If you do, you can play, or you have to exile the top card of your library, sorry. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. That's not bad. Copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate only if you have 3 or more spells this turn. That's pretty good too. Pretty good, pretty good. The land I'm talking about that I was thinking about including. Actually, you know what? I am going to include it. Screw it. I am going to pull out the Ferris Lake. I'm not really fond of the Ferris Lake. And I like the pairing. The other land that I was talking about is the Quarry Mountain Monastery. And I've decided I am going to add that. since we do have a little bit of impulse stuff going on, just not a lot. And I do like the fact that you have until the end of your next turn to play that card. So like Stella Lee, I don't have to play it this turn, which means if I run out of mana this turn, it's not the end of the world. So I will include the Quarry Mountain Monastery to go with the Mistrise Village. Both are excellent cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm, which do some pretty cool stuff if you can pay their costs. Alright, so since we know that it's the Stella Lee Precon, you will not be surprised to see that a lot of the creatures in this deck come from that Precon. Razzle Dazzler does some pretty cool stuff, gets +1/+1 counters and can't be blocked, as long as you can play 2 spells each turn. Lightning Stormkin, flying 2/2 with haste, mainly included in here because it's a wizard. Human Cleric, Loress of the Healing House. She's largely in here because she can untap Stella Lee, or she can untap one of those cool lands, or something else if need be. Otherwise, I'm not using her for anything. She just essentially does what she does. Kenra Spell Spear is one of those cards that I actually added outside of the Precon. I really like what this thing does, actually. On this side, it's not the most powerful. It's just got Trample and Prowess, and it's a 2/2. But if you can pay the 3 in the Phyrexian Blue the same turn that you play it, you end up with a Trample 3/3 Ward 2 Double Prowess. So for those who don't know, but who love watching my content anyways, and awesome, thank you so much for being those kinds of people who are tuning in. Prowess means that if I cast a spell that isn't a creature, so instant, sorcery, enchantment, artifact, etc., this thing gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So the other side having double prowess means that every instant or sorcery is going to give it +2/+2 essentially per turn. So if I can play 2 non-creature spells, it's going to be a 7/7 with Trample and Ward 2, which is pretty powerful. Moving right along, we now get into the set of cards that are in here largely because they reduce the cost of spells for instants and sorceries. So we got the Hoti Dijin. His power is equal to the amount of instants and sorceries in my graveyard, which probably isn't going to be very high in terms of power because there's a lot of stuff pulling instants and sorceries out of my graveyard in this deck. But he does also reduce the cost, and that's the main reason he's in here. Plus he has flying and he has 4 as a butt, so he's a decent blocker. Thunderclap Drake, 1 and a blue, 2/1, reduces the cost of instants and sorceries, has flying, and I can sacrifice it to make my next instant or sorcery spell get copied for the amount of times that I've cast my commander in the game. So if I'm running Stella, there's a good chance that I could probably copy it at least 2 or 3 times. My other commander, not so much. When you see her later, you'll understand why. Goblin Electromancer, another one that reduces the cost. And finally, Eluge, the Shoreless Sea. This legendary is actually insane from Bloomburrow. If you guys haven't seen this before, it's definitely a must-grab for any deck that likes islands. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of islands you control. Whenever this thing enters or attacks, you put a counter that's a flood counter on any land, and that land becomes an island in addition to its other types as long as the counter is on it. Your instant or sorcery, the first one that you cast each turn, costs blue or 1 less for each land you control with a flood counter on it. So essentially, as long as you can get this thing attacking a decent amount of times, or if you can flicker it a bunch, you can have a serious reduction on the first instant or sorcery you play each turn, which is pretty good. Now we're getting into the ones that do some extra stuff when you cast instants and sorceries. These ones deal damage, so we got Gutter Snipe dealing 2 damage to each opponent. Whoop, there was supposed to be another one that dealt damage. 1 second. I thought there was another one that dealt damage. 1 second. Yep, there we go. Kessig Flame Breather also deals 1 damage every time you cast a non-creature spell. Was there another one that dealt damage? No. Okay. Now we get into all the ones that do fun things when you cast an instant or sorcery. This one gives you elementals. This one gives you soldiers. This one gives you blue drakes. And this one gives you a... oh, it just lets you make target creature 8/8 until end of turn. Okay, I thought it gave you an actual second octopus. This guy gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to create a treasure. So, more mana, and he can get powerful. Not that I'm going to actually probably use him for that reason. And this guy has Defender, tap him, deal 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to untap him. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery with this one on the field, you get to draw a card. So, lots of different value for playing instants and sorceries in these cards here. Now we're going to get into the crazy stuff. If you thought that stuff was good, this stuff's insane. Play with the top card of your deck revealed, cast instants and sorceries from the top of your library, and whenever you do that, you copy it. Melik is fantastic. We also have a Niv-Mizzet Param. That one actually came with the deck. He can't be countered. He is flying. Whenever you draw a card, he deals 1 damage to any opponent, and whenever anybody casts an instant or sorcery spell, I get to draw. So, this one's awesome because it's pinging for my opponent's spells as well as my own. Gandalf the Grey had to be included here. 3, a blue, and a red. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery that hasn't, you do one of the effects that hasn't been done yet. You either tap or untap target permanent. He deals 3 damage to each opponent. You copy an instant or sorcery spell and choose new targets, potentially, if you want to. Or you put him back on top of the deck. I do have a different art version of him that I'm tempted to put in here, but I think I'm still going to use this one more so, just because I do like the classic art style. But I do have the, you saw me pull it recently. I have the full art one. I'm just going to see if I can find it super quick to show you guys. If I can, great. If not, then I will just show it to you in the next time I do a video. You guys can vote on which art works better. Where are you, Gandalf? I thought he was going to be in that pile there. Because Bilbo's there. Bear with me, guys. Sorry. Maybe I'll cut this part out of the video so that it won't be so long for you guys. I'm starting to learn how to do that. Getting a lot better at this editing stuff. Not like insanely better, but pretty proud of myself for the start I've made towards it. Huh. Well, I thought for sure I found them by now. I know I pulled that artwork for this card. I know I was tempted to put in this deck more than the other blue-red deck. There it is. There is one other creature that I'm tempted to put in this deck too. I might change something real quick while we are making this video. Changing on the fly is fun. It did come with this deck originally. I just pulled it out for something else, but I think I might end up putting it back in instead of somebody here. As good as Lightning Stormkin is, I might end up pulling that for the other one, but this is the original Gandalf the Grey artwork, and here's the other one that I was referring to. So that one's got the Balrog pulling Gandalf down off of the bridge at Khazad-dûm versus the when he's making his last stand kind of artwork. I like the last stand artwork better, but I mean, I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments, which one you would use in your deck. Maybe by the end of the episode I might switch this in. This is the other one I'm considering putting in instead of Stormkiln. It costs 2 more, but you get to put a +1/+1 counter on them every time you play 2 spells in a turn, and you get to draw a card, which means it'll trigger Niv Mizzet too, which is great. Darn, I'm starting to do the greats again. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm going to put the zombie horror in or not. We'll see by the end of the video. Maybe there's something I will pull out instead. We got Najal, the Stormrunner, 2 blue and a red. You can cast instant sorceries as though they have flash, and he attacks, you can pay 2. If you do, next spell or sorcery you get to copy. So, another great way to copy stuff. Ovica, Enigma, Goliath, 5, a blue and a red. I think this is the one that took the place of the zombie guy. Flying, ward 3, and pay 3 life, which is insane. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you make X 1/1 red Phyrexian goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of the spell. So I think that's the reason why I took out Chrome, and I kind of was trying to keep the mana values low for a lot of the creatures in here, which the mana curve is actually pretty small for most of this deck. Most of it is 4 or less, I would say, in terms of creatures at least, up until these ones that we're doing now. Even Balmor, Battle Mage Captain, flying, and whenever you cast an instant sorcery, all your creatures get +1/+0 and trample until end of turn, which is pretty freaking awesome. Ashling Flame Dancer, 2 and 2 red, 4/4. You don't lose unspent red mana. And whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you discard a card. And then draw a card. And if this is the second time it happened, then this thing deals 2 damage to each opponent. And if it's the third time, you get to add 4 red mana. Eris, Roar of the Storm, 8 and a blue and a red, but it costs 2 less for each different mana value among instants and sorcery spells in your graveyard, which you can get them in pretty cheaply then. Flying Prowess, and whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you make a 4/4 dragon elemental creature token with flying and prowess. Kaza, Royal Chaser, Flying Haste, tap. The next instant or sorcery costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control. Oh, I forgot there was one more wizard cost reducer. He should have been over here. And the last card, Varen, Voice of Duality, 1 in a red and a blue. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, this thing gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And copying and casting instants and sorcery spells, if it causes a triggered ability of a permanent, it gets copied again. So, for example, Niv Mizzet, if I cast an instant, I draw a card, I'm going to draw a second card, and everybody's going to get pinged for 2 damage. Let me know what you think. Would you keep Stormkiln in, or would you put in the zombie? The zombie came with the deck, but the cost is a little high, but I mean, you do get a lot more benefits out of it. The downside is, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll pull a land at the end of this. How many lands does this deck have? It has a lot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Actually, no, it doesn't. It only has 31. That's pretty bad. Alright, well, those are the creatures. Let's do artifact sticks. We got Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Midnight Clock, gives us an extra, all these things give us mana. We got Winged Boots to give my creatures flying in ward 4. Smoldering Stagecoach is pretty insane. Its power is equal to the number of instants and sorceries. Again, this is one of those things that's not going to be very powerful, probably more often than not. But whenever it attacks, the next instant or sorcery I cast has Cascade. So I'm going to get an extra bonus cast out of it. And Twinning Staff, which lets me do an extra copy whenever I copy a spell. And then I can also pay 7 and copy any instant or sorcery by tapping this thing. So, pretty solid cards all around there. The enchantments are equally insane for this deck. It came with a propaganda first off, which was crazy for Precon. It also has Arcane Bombardment. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell, exile an instant or sorcery at random from your graveyard, then copy each card exiled with this thing. And those copies, as far as I know, don't go back into the graveyard. I believe they stay exiled, so under this thing, so it just keeps exiling them over and over again. Shark Typhoon. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get an X blue shark. So that's going to be pretty powerful with the Arcane Bombardment on the field and all the different copying stuff I'm going to be doing. I also have Storm of Sauron for copying stuff. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you can copy it, and the copy isn't legendary, so you could actually cast your commander and have 2 Stella Leaves, for example, which is pretty freaking awesome. And this card has Ward 3 on its own. Plus, finally, 1,000-Year Storm. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you get to copy it for each instant or sorcery you cast before this turn. So we're going to get a lot of copying of my instants and sorceries piles, which are over here. Now, the instants, there's not actually a lot of stuff going on. Even though the pile is pretty thick, it's mostly defensive magic stuff or card draw. So this one, you can copy the next instant or sorcery play. This one also has flashback. There's a counter spell, which also has Surveil 1, Sinister Sabotage, Dissipate, counter a spell, gets exiled instead. Lightning Strike to deal 3 damage to any target. Pretty simple one, that one. Big Score gives me a couple cards and a couple treasure tokens. Ponder. Tari Scorn. Both of those, that one gives me basically like a scry almost if I want, and then I can shuffle if I don't like the cards and draw. This one is another counter spell, another counter spell, another counter spell, another counter spell. Chaos Warp is basically like a counter spell. Another one that lets me do some different stuff. If I have a wizard, it lets me do extra stuff, though. Target player draws 2 cards, destroy an artifact, or deals 5 damage to target creature. And Frantic Search for some more card draw. So, like I say, a decent amount of card draw in this deck for sure. But not, like, crazy stuff going on with those. The crazy stuff is more the sorcery pile. There is some more card draw in here, though. Preordain. I'm just going to go real quick and sort out all these card draw stuff, actually, for you guys first. Oh, there was just a couple more. Lock and Load for drawing cards, and Preordain for drawing cards. We got Rousing Refrain. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. I don't lose that mana. And this thing gets exiled with 3 time counters on it, then has Suspend and comes back over and over and over again, which is crazy cool. Plus, if this thing gets copied a few times, I'm going to get an insane amount of red mana. Witch's Mark is in here largely because of the infinite combo that can go with Stella Lee. For those who don't know, essentially you give Stella Lee a Wicked roll, then you copy the spell, you give her another Wicked roll, the first Wicked roll gets removed, which deals 1 damage to everybody, and then you just keep copying it infinitely to ping everybody to death. Volcanic Torrent has Cascade on its own, and when it comes in, it deals X damage to each creature and planeswalker my opponent's control, where X is the number of spells I've already cast this turn. So it will see the Cascade first, which means that it will deal at least 2 damage when you play this card. But it could be a significantly amount more based on all the copying and things. Spreading Insurrection is in here largely because although I don't intend to take a lot of people's stuff in this deck, it's not the main theme of this deck. This one comes with Storm. So essentially it's going to copy itself for the amount of different spells I've already played, plus the amount of times I could copy it. I could just be taking a person's entire board with 1 card, which is pretty cool. Fiery Confluence. I can do the same mode more than once, but I get to choose 3. Deal 1 damage to each creature, deal 2 damage to each opponent, or destroy an artifact. Again, you get to choose the same one 3 times, so you could deal 6 damage to each opponent, and then if you copied it, you could deal 3 damage to each of their creatures, and then if you copied it, you could also destroy a bunch of artifacts. Like, this deck gets really crazy with the amount of copying stuff it can do. Speaking of copying stuff, Epic Experiment. Exile the top X cards of your library. You can cast instant and sorcery spells with mana value X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Then all the cards that weren't cast this way go into my graveyard. Elemental Eruption, 4 and 2 red, create a 4/4 dragon elemental creature token with flying and prowess, and it has Storm. So again, just like the Insurrection one, if I can copy it a couple times in addition, it's going to see itself plus all the different copies, and I'm just going to get that many more dragons and have a massive board state. Mizzix's Mastery, 3 and a red, or I can overload it for 5 and 3 red. I exile a target card that's an instant or sorcery from my graveyard, and for each card exiled this way, I copy it, and I can choose to cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So I can basically wipe out my entire graveyard and then copy all the stuff that's in there at least once. And then depending on what order I do it in, I can get more copies and so on and so forth. Vandal Blast, destroy an artifact I don't control, or everybody's artifacts. Brawl's Expertise, return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner's hands. I can cast a spell with mana value 4 or less from my hand without paying its mana cost. Again, another great way to, sorry for the greats, to wipe out a board if I can copy it enough times, plus then I can play that many spells from my hand. Finale of Promise, you can cast up to 1 instant and up to 1 sorcery from your graveyard with mana value X or less without paying their mana cost. If you put 10 into the X, though, you can copy each of those spells twice, so that's pretty crazy. Finale of Revelation lets you draw X cards if X is 10 or more. Instead, you shuffle your graveyard into your library first and then draw the cards. Untap up to 5 lands, and you have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. This one doesn't get exiled when you play it. This one does. Crackle with Power deals 5 times X damage to each of up to X target creatures. Again, if you can get enough mana, Crackle with Power is definitely going to wipe out everybody. And finally, Temporal Trespass, 8 and 3 blue. It does have Delve, but chances are I'm not going to do the delving very much. The big thing is I get to take an extra turn after this one, and then this gets exiled. But if I can copy it a few times, I can have, say, 3 or 4 extra turns. Generally speaking, that's not the goal of the deck, but I'm just saying the option is there. Now, clearly, if I run Stellally as the commander, this is like a bracket, like 3 easily, if not a bracket 4 deck. I don't typically like to play bracket 3 or 4, which is why I don't typically run Stellally as the commander. She is usually my backup commander if I want to deal with somebody that is just annoying me, or if I have a particular bad time at a table and I just want to make a point, or if I just want to play a quick game, then Stellally is the way to go. But if I want to play this game the fun way, this deck the fun way that I actually originally intended it, I play this commander. It is, can you guess it? I bet you can't. Nira Wild Mage. She costs an insane amount to get her on the board, 4, a blue, and a red. And you end up with a 2/7, which is not very powerful. But what she does is insane. Whenever you cast a spell, if you choose to, you can put that spell on the bottom of its owner's library. If you do, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card. Then you can cast that card without paying its mana cost instead. The rest of the cards go to the bottom of your library in a random order, and you can only do this once per turn. So essentially, I can play anything I want in this deck, and then bottom it, and whatever comes off the top is what I get to play next, for free. So I could pay 1 for a Soul Ring, bottom it, and I could end up playing Niv Mizzet for free, for example, which is pretty cool. Now, the downside to Nira is she doesn't do well with X spells. And as you saw, I have at least 3, I think I might have 4 in here, different X spells. Yeah, I have 4 different X spells in this deck. So, I mean, there are at least 4 cards in here that are immediately killed by Nira as soon as I top deck those with her ability. Which is why it's kind of vital to try and play your your preordains and your stuff like that to try and figure out what's on top and always keep an eye out, or have the card that lets you keep your top deck revealed, Melik. So things like that let you play Nira more effectively, but otherwise, it's just a really fun gamble deck. Do I win with it? Decent amount of times. Do I win with it when Nira's in command? Not nearly as often. But yeah, this is my second of 4 Spellslinger decks. I'm just trying to decide if there is a card I want to pull out for that zombie horror creature that originally was in this deck. Because I kind of do like that card a decent amount. I might pull out one of the counter spells or something, maybe. Or I might pull out Galvanic Iteration. Just because I got a bunch of different ways to copy spells anyways in here already. Anyways, I'm going to think about that, and I'm going to let you guys know later. You guys can let me know in the comments whether you think that Stormkiln should stay in, or whether you think the Cacophony should be the card I should include. Those are the 2 main ones that I'm thinking about switching. But in the meantime and between time, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Super Deck Sunday. I'll try and shoot an introduction to this video later with Kaiba in it, maybe tomorrow morning, so that you guys get a shot of him. But otherwise, you know he loves you, and I'm going to cap it off. Much love to you all from Kaiba, who you can't see, and I to you. Take care. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.